Hello guys, and welcome to part 5 of my Rock101 series. In the meantime, I went ahead and did a little bit more detailing on the weird rock here, and I wanted to mention a few things before I continue with covering how I would make some custom alphas myself. If we take a look at the model here, we can see there's kind of a yeah, I don't know. It's a kind of a little bit of a difficult area because it's hard to get to, and it might have some overlapping. And once you come to the point where you should make a low poly version of this, which you might be wondering at this point, which I did. Why do I need a low poly? And is my game engine going to be able to handle all these millions of polygons? And the answer for that is no, it's not. That's what you need the low poly for. So initially I was wondering, so why am these guys making all these details if we don't have it? And the answer for that is because that's what is going to be used for creating normals. And normals is especially good for capturing small details without adding extra geometry in terms of polygons. So that's a super fast version of this, in case you're wondering, as I was. So anyway, just wanted to point out this area here. It's going to be problematic for me, and probably a word of warning. What I'm showing here is probably not the type of rock you want to be making as the first rock, because that's actually what I did and I failed horribly at it. Just wanted to point that out. So maybe this was really a bad idea to start demonstrating this kind of stuff, because I really think it's a bad idea to start out with this kind of complexity. So what I'm going to do is, since I've already gone this far at this point, I'm just going to fill out this hole here and point out a good thing to be aware of, because I had that issue as you saw in the first video. So up here you can see, if you hover the mouse over the model in the tools, you can see it says hidden polys and hidden points, and it says 0 if you look a little bit to the left of my cursor. And sometimes you will actually end up having some hidden polygons, and that means that some stuff is going to be overlapping and hidden behind whatever. So it's worth going up here sometimes and checking if you have some hidden polygons, because they are going to be causing issues later on. If you do have them, and even though you don't have them, it's always a good idea to go under geometry and mesh integrity and click this one, check mesh integrity. And this time it says the mesh contains one phase with multiple reference to the same vertex. So that means I would have an issue, and that means I can click this button and it will fix it for me. So that's a very nice option down here to know of. So anyway, I'm gonna hold down Alt. I have C sub on here. That means I'm gonna using by holding Alt. By the way, it's temporarily switching to C add. It doesn't show, but it's adding instead. So you can see the cursor changes to minus, a little minus symbol. So I can fill it out, as you can see here. I'm just gonna make it easier for myself later on. So I really I'm not really interested in having that inset area there. At least that's not what I want. Maybe some other people know exactly how to sort this stuff out, but I kind of try to avoid it. So once I have that, I probably should, oops, didn't want to do that. Get a smaller brush and then just even it out a little bit. Something like that. And say we're satisfied with that, maybe cover it up. That's kind of the point with all this stuff here. cover it up with an alpha, let's see, maybe a little bit stronger, maybe even a different one. Oops. Maybe this one. It's gonna create a little something here. That doesn't look good. Let's see. What about this one? Yeah, that's gonna be okay for now. So yeah, for now I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna actually park this model here on the side, and eventually we're going to start on a new model and see if we can get this to work anyway towards the end of this series here. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to save it as version 2 and leave it for now. But yeah, as you can see, it's starting to look kind of, it might have too much detail, but it's kind of looking rocky in a sort of way. As I mentioned, I'm no expert in this, but I'm definitely going to spend some time trying to look at a lot of reference images on rocks and so on to get a better understanding on how rocks are formed. Because right now it's kind of limited to the fact that I know I've been looking at pictures and so on, which I suggest you do if you want to make some as well. But it does seem to have these jagged edges and kind of random forms, but there's still some kind of system to it, which I haven't quite yet decoded. So that's why it's, yeah, some of this stuff might look rock kind of, but it's not really. Still something is wrong. Probably you'll notice. Okay, so anyway, let's make a new scene. And this time, instead of taking the dynamesh 124, we'll take the default cube. Okay. So the thing about alphas, or creating these custom alphas, is that you need to align whatever you have in your scene with the viewport. So if we create, put the cube here in this position, and you go under alpha, you have a button down here called grab dock. That's going to create a depth representation of the stuff you have in the current scene. So if you also switch this one, because if you use, let's say this one, let's turn off symmetry. If you just use the regular like this, you're going to be drawing with them. But if you instead change this to drag rectangle, you can see we actually get kind of a indented version of our cube here. So if we turn the C intensity all the way up, we actually get a cube like that inside the cube. So that's one thing to know. So we're going to be using the shift key to align the rotation. So once I click and drag around and hold down shift, it's going to snap the view to an even angle here, like that. So we're going to be using that when we position the cube here. And you might be wondering why we don't just use a plane, because you have a 3D plane in here as well, somewhere here. But the thing is, if you use dynamesh with a plane, it's sometimes creating some random holes in it. So that's why I'm going to be using a box instead. So we don't need all this stuff behind, but we just need a little bit of that. So we're going to do some preparations for this, and then make a template that we can use if we want to make some more alphas. Okay, So I'm going to set the resolution. Oh, one more thing. We have a subdivision on this. So once I turn on dynamesh, it's going to say you have subdivision levels. So it's asking you if you want to freeze. So we want to say no to that. And that's going to give you close to 100,000 polygons. And that's definitely not enough. So we're going to subdivide this or set the dynamesh to 1024. And we're not going to dynamesh this right now yet. What we want to do is to hold down Shift and Control, and this might have been set to select rectangle, but if you hold down Shift and Control, and while still holding it down, you left click here and you select Clip Rect. So this is going to give us, whenever we hold Shift and Control, it's going to give us this Shift Rectangle tool. So what we want to do here is to select something like this, maybe a little bit taller, but just something like this. And that's going to give us only that. It's going to cut everything else out. So if we turn around, we can see it's having a little funny angle here, which we don't really want. And the reason for that is that we have a perspective on. So we want to turn that off and undo what we just did, and then go back and snap the rotation, and then repeat the clipping here. So this time we can see we now have a perfect square box with no distortion. So now we can turn it on again. Okay. And one other thing we need to do, if we take a look at the resolution of this image, when we hover the mouse over the alpha, we can see the width and the height resolution here is 1507 times 814. This resolution is determined by the document size, which we can change up here under document. So by default, constraint proportions is on. So whenever you change this, say we want to set this to 2048 and press enter, it's also going to adjust the height. We don't want that because we want it to be square. So 48, and then click resize and say yes. Now you can see our cube got distorted. It's kind of weird. Okay, so press Ctrl N to clear the scene and drag it out again, and hit T or click the edit button up here, and then rotate the box into place again by holding Shift. All right. So if we now grab dock, this one, we're gonna get 2048 by 2048 box out of this. So the trick here will be to zoom this all the way up, so it takes up kind of all the space of this, and then I'm just going to use this one, but it's basically the same box button as down here. And then get this resized so it takes up as much space as possible, so you get as much detail as possible. Okay, so anyway, at this point we can dynamesh, so control and drag, and it's gonna subdivide our little box here, so we have something to work on. And the reason why I'm spending the time on this is because if you want to make a few of these, you don't want to do this process I just showed you over and over again. You just want to be able to do it right away. So it gave us 4.1 million polygons. That's going to be okay for this. Might want to go a little higher even. So at this point, you go to File and hit Save As. And you want to navigate, if you're not already in that folder, apparently I wasn't, go to your installation folder for ZBrush under C Projects, and I already have one saved here, so but you could call it something like Alpha template. And just save it here. That means it's going to show up every time you start ZBrush. So I have one called Dynamesh Alpha. So whenever I need to create an alpha, I just pick this one. It's going to give me something similar to this one. So that was the preparations for all this. So before I start, I want to credit Jonas Rønnegaard. Is a Swedish guy that made these brushes I showed before. He has these alphas that I used before for sale on Gumroad. He has a free version which has 5 brushes, and he has one with 18 which I bought, and they are definitely worth every penny. So I would highly recommend you go check that out. He also has a video showing on ArtStation, showing how some of the techniques he used, which has been really helpful for me to watch. And some of the stuff I'm showing here is inspired by what he showed in this video. And I also had the honor to chat a little bit with him, and he told me some of the techniques that he used. So I would definitely go check out his stuff. It's really nice what he does. But anyway, so this is my take on what I got out of it. So you want to go start making some clay tubes. Pick the clay tube. You can find it probably somewhere up here, clay tubes, and use a square alpha. It doesn't really matter, honestly. Actually, let's use no. And then you just want to drag out something. Maybe use a smaller brush, actually. Just something like this, for example. And it doesn't matter if you have C add or C sub, really. It doesn't really matter at this point. The idea is just to get some different angles into this surface, so that when you use this trim smooth border with fairly high brush size and square alpha, so when you click the borders, if you click the middle, nothing is going to happen, but if you click some of the borders here, you can see it creates these angled surfaces, which is going to be something we are looking for when we start to create some of these rock faces or rock alphas. So I'm just gonna try and not go too close to the edge. But as you can see, every time I click, it's carving a little bit further in because I pick up some new geometry and new angles and so on. So it's a good way of starting out, I think. You can just experiment with this, but this is basically what you would do to create this. So some of this stuff here. And what he also shows is that it's a good idea to use morph targets. So again, just to repeat that, on the morph target, you want to click the store morph target, so it saves a snapshot of this scene here, and that allows you to do all kinds of changes. And if you go a little bit too crazy with this, you can always go back to your go use the morph brush and paint it back again exactly as it was before. That's a very, very handy technique when you do this kind of stuff here. One other thing I personally found to be pretty useful is the use of the planer tool, because sometimes it's kind of hard to get things to look the way I want. So again, use a square alpha, maybe use a smaller brush size, but it's good to get these plain flat surfaces which you might want to have for this kind of stuff. So I'm going to be using both the trim smooth border and also the planer tool to get some of these flat surfaces that we can use for creating some rocky textures. or Rock Alphas. So what I do kind of find to be useful is to pick, we have an area here where it's bending down. So start clicking here and then move towards that area, and then you can get these curvy, all these kind of sharp edges. And since you don't want all this stuff maybe, then you can use the morph tool with square alpha and high C intensity to get some of this back again. That's a good way to create some of these basic starting points for some cracks and so on. So that's something. It's a technique I personally use a few times. So I'm not gonna be creating one really here because it's actually pretty time consuming, at least for me it is, to make these, mostly because they need to be pretty damn good looking. I can't really afford any too many mistakes or weird things with these, because they are definitely going to be showing up on whatever you make whenever you start applying them to your model. And actually this was the point where I decided that, okay, I can't really do this with a mouse. So at this point, I think in my journey into rock creation world, that's about the point where I decided, okay, I need a Wacom tablet. So I won't be doing too much more with this, but because it's basically just going to take too much time, I'm just going to switch to my tablet for just a moment. That's a planar tool. The thing with the tablet is it takes a little bit of time to get used to, I think. But once you get used to it, it can really speed up your workflow tremendously. I think it's definitely worth the investment. And yeah, basically, you don't really need to have one of the most expensive ones, I would say. You probably just need it for painting mostly. What I like to do is to use this. I have the Wacom Intuos Pro Medium, and I like to use it has a scroll wheel, which I find to be very useful for changing the brush size. I will be covering that in a later video, how to set that up. But it's very handy indeed, that wheel. It also has the keys, some hotkeys placed very strategically well. At least for me, I'm left-handed, so I used a different one initially, and I had to bring it back because I couldn't use it. It wasn't really, well, it was okay, but it was constantly the buttons. It had 4 buttons. It was the Intuos Art, I think it's called, and it's actually is pretty good, but I couldn't really use any of the buttons, and it didn't have any scroll wheel on it. So yeah, I basically had to, and I have a key mapped to S. Actually, I must have unset it, but actually I still find myself often changing the brush size just by clicking a button and then bringing this guy up here, because it's faster than scrolling. It has a little bit of delay, so actually I don't use the scroll wheel that much at all. So kind of it's not what it's gonna be the argument to get the Intuos Pro version. So anyway, I can keep on doing this, but the thing is, one thing I noticed when I started trying to do these alphas is that I kept getting some blurry corners here and there, and that's one thing to be pretty careful about. So once you get, for example, to the bottom here, you don't want to have curvy, have it too soft at the bottom. So for example, you don't want to have it look like this. It's going to look weird. It's not going to look rocky at all. So you want this to be fairly sharp at the bottom, and the way to do that is, as I showed, is to use a combination of the plus, the add tool. So add a little bit, as you can see here. It might be a little bit difficult to get it, but see, I'm adding constantly a little bit until I get a sharp edge here, and then I might have to subtract a little bit and then add a little bit again, and it's going to take a little practice to get a hang of this. And sometimes I actually use the planer tool if it's being a bitch, which it is sometimes. So it's just worth noting. I find this planer tool pretty handy sometimes. You can create some pretty nice sharp edges pretty quickly. Okay, so I'm not gonna be doing too much more of this. But anyway, the way to use this kind of stuff, if I'm just gonna switch back to the mouse for a moment, is we want to zoom in fairly close on this, and then we want to take a picture of this. So we want to make sure that this is encompassing everything, all of our details that we have, and maybe zoom out a little bit so we are sure we have everything. And what I found to be useful is actually to open up this side panel here, and you can see I have currently I have the C plugin docked in here. So you can click the alpha and click this one, and then drag this to the side, so it keeps it up, so you don't have to constantly grab it up here. And then what I do is to inverse this, and it's gonna give me an inverted version. So you can see all the white is what was not covered before. So you want to have as little as possible of the white. This is a little bit too much, I would think. But my workflow involves switching to the back side just for testing, and then switching to a standard brush, and then selecting this inverted one. And right now I have the C subset really high, so let's say set it to 16 maybe, and drag it out. And you can see some of the details are there if you zoom in a little bit on it, but not all of it. So depending on how much C intensity you set, you're gonna get more or less of this. And it's fairly jagged and low res at this point, but let's say we zoom out a little bit and drag out a big version of this. And it's gonna be, it's all dependent on the resolution of your base mesh. So this is 3 million. So, and depending on how big this was when you took the screenshot, so the grab doc, so that's the reason why you want to have this to be as large as possible. So it captures as much detail as possible. You see, at this stage, it's getting really jagged and low res. So, but anyway, since we don't want that white outer color, what I found to be easiest is just to fire up Photoshop and then trim it out inside Photoshop. So I'm just gonna export that. You do that by clicking the alpha and going to export, and let's just dump it on the desktop real quick and open it up. There we go. And let's see, how is it? Nope. Select. Oops. Select and select, and then it's nope, like that. And deselect. So we can see it's actually a little bit of gray in here. So I might just actually, I think what I'm going to do is to eyedrop that gray color, and then I'm going to paint bucket fill it with that, and then just save it back. So with that saved, I can now go in here and oops, I can now go in here and import it again. So here it is. So now I have a new one. So when I drag that out, you can still see there's a little bit of edge here. And actually what we can try, there's a number of ways you can go about and fix this. Just gonna try and fill all this. This is not gonna be good. Okay, so anyway, in this case, what you can do is to go to, you have the alpha part open here. You can modify this by adding radial fade, so turning this one up. Somewhat like that maybe. And you can see it's changing over here. So when we drag it out now, we got rid of the borders. So that's a good way of usually getting rid of the last little bit of border that might be hanging on. So in order to get a brush out of this, this video is getting a little bit long. I might let's see if I can remember how to create a brush. Yeah, let's do it. So you have this alpha now, you have it saved, and what you basically want to do is to create a custom icon for this. And you want to have probably, because all these are round, so to keep it same way, we're gonna just also create a ball with something to show for our custom brush. So yeah, what we do, we have the alpha saved still. It's also saved on my desktop. So I'm gonna make a new scene, or go to the lightbox and create a dynamesh. Say no. Let's see. Just turn off perspective, or turn off the grid. And what we want to do here is to select madcap gray maybe, and a fairly light color. And then with the standard brush still selected, I'm gonna drag this out. And we don't have enough detail here actually, and I forgot something else, because we want this document to be square. So I'm gonna set this to 1024. It's probably too much, but just gonna be what I do here. So start again, and then we're gonna subdivide this because we have too little detail here. So that's plenty, I think. Oops, sorry about that. Let's do it again. God damn it. Edit and subdivide, undo. Okay, so 700,000, that's gonna be okay for this. You can now drag out your representation or representative version of this, and I think we need to how is it we do this? I'm not really sure if we need this. But you want to center this, and there's a way to do it. I can't really remember how I did it. So for now, I'm just gonna eyeball it and put it roughly in the center. And then I think the background, I'm not really sure if the background is gonna show, but we are gonna see. Otherwise, you can start by filling out the background with a black color. But anyway, what you want to do here is to export. Under document, you want to export this. And what it's going to do is going to export a picture of this. So you want to export this as a brush icon or something on your desktop. And then under brush, we can now say select icon and then get our brush icon. And that's going to bring in this guy here. So now this is going to be your icon. So that's what we did here. We created the icon, and you want to keep the stroke setting set to drag rectangle, and you want to keep the alpha you created, and you want to set some reasonable default value like 20 maybe. I think maybe that's a little bit too high, but anyway, I'm going to keep that, and then you can save this brush as and save it as something like my first alpha or something. And if you want this to show up inside your lightbox or your brushes, you can navigate to ZBrush under ZBrush C Startup and brush presets, and you can see this is where I copied the other brushes too, and you can save it here. My first brush, like that. And that basically means that whenever you select brush, you're gonna have in this overview my first brush. So that means you can just select it, and whenever you select it, you can just drag copies of this stuff out here. So this is a good way, I think, to learn some of the modeling, rock modeling techniques. And my computer is crapping out on me. By making these alphas, and it's apart from being good practice for creating these rocky shapes, it's also a good way of learning the navigation and the interface and all that. And yeah, as you can see, it's pretty easy to create something this way. People call it the noob way. Anyway, I think it's a good way. That's probably because I'm a noob. Anyway, so this video has gone on for quite too long, I think. So I'm gonna cut it here and be seeing you in the next. So hope you enjoyed, and bye bye.